In an unprecedented diplomatic move, Israel has imposed a sweeping ban on all British officials, effectively barring them from entering the country. Reports indicate that this is the first time a Western ally has faced such severe restrictions from Israel, signaling a historic rupture in relations. The decision comes as a direct response to Britain's recent policy announcements, which included full support for international criminal court proceedings against Israeli leaders and a comprehensive arms embargo. The ban extends to defensive military systems that Israel maintains to protect its citizens, highlighting the severity of the Israeli government's response. The implications of this sudden diplomatic action are profound, touching on national security, intelligence cooperation, trade, and the credibility of Britain on the global stage. Experts warn that the disruption may leave the United Kingdom vulnerable to threats it previously managed with the close support of Israeli intelligence, while shaking confidence among allied nations in Europe, North America, and the Middle East. The origins of this crisis trace back to a press conference held by Prime Minister Starmer just 4 days ago. During the event, Starmer announced Britain's suspension of arms exports to Israel and expressed support for ICC action against Israeli officials. While framed as a moral stance, sources suggest that the decision was made without consulting key figures in the British government. Dame Barbara Woodward, the United Kingdom's UN ambassador and a highly respected diplomat, reportedly discovered the policy change only through an official complaint submitted by Israeli authorities. She was not briefed in advance by Number 10 or the Foreign Office, an oversight that left her blindsided and humiliated, with reports suggesting that she drafted a resignation letter immediately after learning of the decision. Other essential departments, including the Middle East Desk, Intelligence Services, and the Ministry of Defense, were also bypassed. This unilateral approach left officials scrambling to assess the fallout, while the diplomatic damage unfolded rapidly. The consequences were swift and publicly humiliating. Foreign Secretary David Lammy, en route to Tel Aviv for emergency talks, reportedly had his landing clearance revoked mid-flight, forcing his plane to return to London. The incident was captured in real time by flight tracking applications, and thousands watched as Britain's top diplomat was publicly turned away. Experts described the event as unprecedented in modern diplomatic history, a public display designed to demonstrate Israel's displeasure and signal the seriousness of Britain's breach. Later, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation in a televised statement, flanked by his security cabinet. His message was clear and direct. A nation that abandons its allies in moments of need cannot expect friendship in return. Netanyahu accused Britain of prioritizing symbolic gestures over practical security, framing the UK's actions as appeasement over democracy and virtue signaling over security. He emphasized that Israel would respond decisively to protect its interests and send a warning to other nations watching closely. The immediate security ramifications for Britain are severe. Israel has long provided the UK with vital intelligence support, including counterterrorism operations, cyber defense, monitoring Iranian nuclear developments, and early warnings regarding extremist activities across Europe. With intelligence-sharing frameworks now suspended, British authorities face significant gaps in their ability to anticipate and respond to threats. Michael Green, whose daughter's life was reportedly saved through Israeli intelligence interventions, expressed grave concern over the sudden loss of protective networks. "They just cut the line that kept my family safe," he told reporters, noting that the decision was ostensibly made for political symbolism. Jewish communities across the United Kingdom echoed these fears. Synagogues, schools, and community centers that had relied on Israeli intelligence for safety guidance now face increased uncertainty. Emergency meetings have been convened by community leaders, and protocols for security, communications, and emergency response are being reassessed. Immigration inquiries to Israel and the United States have surged dramatically, reflecting public anxiety over personal safety in the wake of this unprecedented policy decision. Within Downing Street, reports suggest that officials were caught between disbelief and panic. Cabinet members characterized the decision as strategically catastrophic, debating the magnitude of its implications rather than potential corrective measures. The Home Secretary reportedly highlighted that the UK had left itself exposed without protection, while defense officials warned that intelligence coverage essential to national security had been compromised. Internal messaging among National Security Council staff, usually reserved and professional, reportedly took on alarmist labels such as damage control and disaster, reflecting the extraordinary level of concern. Consensus among security professionals indicates that reversing the damage will be extremely challenging, if not impossible in the immediate term. The diplomatic fallout has extended beyond UK-Israel relations, triggering concern among global allies. American officials, who rely on intelligence collaboration between London and Jerusalem to monitor threats across the Mediterranean, North Africa, and the Middle East, have reportedly expressed public frustration. A senior U.S. intelligence source reportedly confirmed that in the event of choosing between London and Jerusalem, the U.S. has already prioritized Israel. Within NATO, partners such as France and Poland are reportedly questioning Britain's reliability in joint operations. Gulf nations, including Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Bahrain, have privately expressed support for Israel's stance, while Jordan has also reportedly raised concerns about Britain's credibility. This dual diplomatic isolation places the United Kingdom in a precarious position, weakening its influence in a region of strategic importance and undermining decades of carefully cultivated alliances. Economic and industrial consequences are emerging alongside the diplomatic fallout. The British pound has reportedly weakened against the Israeli shekel and other major currencies as investors react to potential disruptions in trade and investment. Bilateral trade valued at approximately $30 billion is under review, and projects in technology, defense, biotech, and cybersecurity have been frozen or redirected. Analysts estimate that the financial losses from these disruptions could exceed $100 billion over the next 2 years. Defense contractors, cybersecurity firms, and technology companies dependent on Israeli partnerships are reevaluating risk exposure. Major projects, including AI research collaborations, life sciences pipelines, and energy security contracts, are being paused or canceled, threatening both jobs and Britain's competitive advantage in critical sectors. The crisis also has direct implications for national security. Networks that monitor Iranian nuclear activity, Hezbollah movements in Syria, Hamas financing operations in Europe, and ISIS affiliates are now compromised or operating with blind spots. Israel's Iron Dome technology, which has historically shielded British military assets abroad, and intelligence support for shipping lanes in the Strait of Hormuz, are no longer accessible. Analysts have characterized the loss as a strategic amputation, emphasizing that Britain has lost not only capabilities but early warning systems critical for national safety. Experts warn that the absence of this intelligence could result in preventable security incidents with potentially fatal consequences for British citizens. Domestically, the political fallout has been swift. Labour's perceived strength on national security has eroded, and polling suggests that Conservative support is increasing, particularly among voters prioritizing defense and intelligence reliability. Opposition leaders are publicly criticizing Starmer's decisions, portraying them as reckless and dangerously naive. Emergency votes and parliamentary inquiries are reportedly being considered, while the public debate intensifies over the balance between moral foreign policy decisions and practical security considerations. The human dimension of this crisis cannot be overstated. British students studying in Israel have reportedly been expelled from exchange programs, joint research laboratories have closed abruptly, and journalists are facing restricted access to reporting opportunities. Embassies and consulates operate under severe limitations, further complicating routine diplomatic and administrative operations. Families and communities reliant on previously robust security networks are now facing unprecedented uncertainty. The Jewish community, in particular, has expressed alarm over potential threats and the absence of the intelligence and protective support they had previously relied upon. Strategically, this situation underscores the fragility of international alliances in modern geopolitics. The United Kingdom's role in the Five Eyes intelligence network, one of the world's most critical security collaborations, depends on trust and reliability. With Israel suspending cooperation, partner nations are reportedly reassessing London's credibility and willingness to honor agreements, potentially affecting collaborative operations across multiple regions. The coming weeks will be critical in determining whether Britain can rebuild trust, restore intelligence sharing agreements, and stabilize its international relationships. Analysts have stressed that the crisis will have long-term consequences for the United Kingdom's standing in global affairs. With intelligence gaps, economic uncertainty, and diplomatic isolation, Britain faces the prospect of diminished influence in Europe, the Middle East, and North America. Experts warn that failing to restore effective collaboration could undermine national security, impede technological advancement, and compromise economic stability for years to come. The decision to prioritize symbolic gestures over strategic coordination has revealed the high stakes involved in foreign policy miscalculations and the tangible costs they impose on citizens, businesses, and government operations alike. In conclusion, the ongoing diplomatic rupture between the United Kingdom and Israel represents a historic challenge with wide-ranging consequences. From intelligence failures to economic disruptions, from political fallout to public uncertainty, the effects are being felt across multiple sectors and will likely persist for years. Analysts emphasize the need for urgent, coordinated action to rebuild trust, restore critical security networks, and mitigate economic and security risks. As Britain navigates this unprecedented situation, the world watches closely, assessing the implications for international alliances, global stability, and the safety of citizens. The coming days and weeks will be decisive in determining whether the United Kingdom can recover from this extraordinary diplomatic and security crisis, or whether the rupture will leave long-lasting vulnerabilities in its defense, intelligence, and global standing.